What do you think of TikTok?
It's a thing I don't fully understand. There's certain things I always get confused because I generally try and make an effort to understand most things. And I don't find it that hard to understand things that other people find baffling, like Trump voting. And I always argue very simply about Trump voting, okay? Look at it like this, okay? Imagine you work for a company and you can choose between two bosses, one of whom is slightly incompetent, borderline alcoholic, say, but really likes you, and another person who's highly competent and technocratic, but you suspect secretly despises you, okay? You're going to vote for the first guy, okay? Simple as that. Now, that's absolutely incomprehensible to people in the technocratic elite, because they've always had, since, I don't know, Clinton, they've had highly academic kind of technocratic Ivy League professors who they see as essentially one of them. So the whole behavior is incomprehensible. TikTok, to me, it makes totally perfect sense. There are a few things I find hard to understand. TikTok, I think I understand. It's essentially video Twitter, isn't it? I mean, but the music aspect of it, I think, is really, really interesting, because everybody, I think, wants to make a music video of their own life, and by making it really easy and manageable. So it's always interesting to look at things like Twitter and TikTok through the lens of choice reduction, or Facebook for that matter, in that MySpace gave you too much choice. And people felt, okay, I've got too much control over length of content, style of content. I'm not a graphic designer. My page is going to end up looking like shit. And then Facebook comes along and basically imposes some sort of aesthetic constraint on you. So there's a limit to the number of variables you have to agonize over. And Twitter undoubtedly did that. Facebook did it relative to MySpace, and I think TikTok does that in a different form, by enabling music, but in a way that you can't cock up. So I think I think there's something going on there. And a very interesting exercise in choice reduction, by the way. Go online and try and buy a Jaguar I-Pace and compare it to the choice architecture for the Ford Mach-E, the Mustang Mach-E, or the Tesla. Now, interestingly, for products that are designed to be bought online, you don't want a huge amount of customization.
Why?
Because this is a bit like the paradox of choice. It is the paradox of choice. Conventional logic says that the more choice you have, the greater the chance you have of optimizing your own utility, your own expected utility. Therefore, the happier you should be. Actually, if you give people too many customization options, they will almost certainly end up being unhappy with an element of their choice. So the Jaguar one, for example, I went in and just as an exercise, I put in the top of the range base model. And then 3 pages later, I found myself asked the question, well, I wanted to pay £190 for fog lamps. And I kind of went, I'm paying 70,000 for a car. I'm not going to fucking pay, 100. And the price of the fog lamps was immaterial. It was the fact that I was being made to pay for them. And eventually I became so resentful at the level of kind of addition. Now, if you go through the Tesla or the Ford process, it's basically 5 colors, 2 kinds of wheels, 2 drivetrains. I think with the Tesla, you can pay $1,000 for the extra interior. With the Model Y, I think you pay a bit extra if you want the third row of seats. Well, fair enough. It's a degree of complexity. I'm not grumbling about that. But the extent to which the choice is enough to make you feel you're actually getting what you want and not paying for things you don't want, but at the same time, it's manageable enough that you can actually go through it in a sequential process without feeling some sense of sort of seething confusion or resentment develop.
And TikTok, by constraining those guardrails, is helping people to be less shit. There's only certain degrees of freedom that you have, and by reducing that, the maximum amount of shitness that your content can be has been brought down.
You've got it exactly. Yeah,
perfect.
Yeah.
Hey, we've broken it. We understand it.
Yeah. And it's always worth, that's probably 50% of my obsession, which is why I'm such a big believer in this ergodicity debate, which is all about the mathematics of optimization under multiplicative dynamics, okay? right? Okay. But a very simple way of looking at it, right? Okay. You've got a little formula that says 1 plus 3. 1 plus 3 is 4, or 2 plus 2, or 4 plus 0. Okay? Right? They all add up to 4. And you can add 1 to either the 1 or the 3. Well, it doesn't make any fucking difference, right? You can add the 1 to the 1, or you can add the 1 to the 3, and it'll now be 5. All right? But under multiplicative dynamics, obviously, that's not the same rule, right? You add the 1 to the lower of the two numbers, because if you take, obviously, if you have 4 times 0 and you add 1 to 4, you still have 0, right? What you want to do is add it to, let's say, 3 times 1. You want to add the 1 to the 2, because that way you get 6, okay? Rather than, say, 0 or 5 or something, right? Now, the reason that makes a difference is that under multiplicative dynamics, and lots of things in human life are kind of more like multiplication than they are addition. It strikes me as an essential, absurd assumption of economics to assume that utility is additive. Okay, that utility arises from a simple series of additive processes that net out. Strikes me as bonkers. I mean, look at reputation. You know the joke that ends, "You shag one sheep," right? Okay, we all know that joke, okay? You know, but do they call me Dimitri the boat builder? But do they call me Dimitri the church builder? But do they call me Dimitri the philanthropist? You shag one sheep, right? Now that shows that reputation is sort of multiplicative. If you hit a big fat 0 and 1, nobody nets out Jimmy Savile, do they? Nobody goes, yeah, bit of a kiddie fiddler, but on the upside, he did do a lot of work for charity.
Did some great work as a philanthropist.
He did some great work, No, you don't. Nobody nets out Jimmy Savile. Okay, right? Okay, and so the point I'm making is lots of things in life are patently more like multiplication over time than they are addition.